Good evening and welcome to the 2020 Citizens Union Gotham Greats event. This year is obviously a little different than ones we've had in the past, but New Yorkers are resilient. We roll with the punches, and we've all become a little bit used to Zoom events. But just for some good housekeeping, I want to give some folks some highlights here on how to navigate it if they're not familiar. First of all, keep your video on so everyone can see you. If you want to communicate between each other, use the chat function. You can communicate to group or individuals, but please keep your microphones off. That will make life much better for everyone. Though this year is different than ones we've had in the past, it still serves the same great purpose at a more important time, perhaps, for our city and our country than ever before. We are in the final stretch of an election, which will have a disproportionate impact on who we are as a nation. We've got some exciting updates and honorees and speeches tonight, but we're still going to keep it brisk. And the same purpose exists. This is to support Citizens Union, the greatest and oldest good government group in New York City at a time when we need it now more than ever. So thank you for your support. Thank you for your civic involvement. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the godmother of good government. She has that phrase trademarked, our executive director, Betsy Gottbaum.
Good evening. I'm Betsy Gottbaum, Executive Director of Citizens Union. And I just wanted to say a few brief words on the work that Citizens Union is doing right now to further our democracy. We are working hard with the Board of Elections in New York City, and they have been very responsive to us about doing recruiting for more people to do poll work and canvassing. And we are also looking very much forward to the election of 2021, where we have a major project about the elections that will be happening in New York City. So please stay tuned and please support us and help us. We are going to let you know what offices are open and who's running for those offices. There'll be probably 500 people running for office in 2021. And we hope to give you an unbiased, very serious outline of what they do and who they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Betsy. You know, I've been on the board of Citizens Union or Citizens Union Foundation for the better part of 2 decades since I served in city government. And it's a phenomenal organization that carries real influence in the places where policy decisions are made. It's a great way for citizens to stay involved. And in some ways, you know, in the time since I've been in government and gone into journalism, which I've also done for the past better part of 2 decades now, I think they should be 2 sides of the same coin. We're here because we care about our city, we care about our state, we care about our country. And the importance of active citizens standing up and speaking out in a united civil way has never been more important than it is today. You know, we really do need a democracy movement in this country, not just on election day, but after. And that requires sustained involvement. And that's what Citizens Union has stood for in New York City and state for well over a century. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our fearless Chairman, Randy Mastro.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Randy Mastro, Chair of Citizens Union, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening. These are challenging times, and the work of Citizens Union is needed now more than ever. We see our beloved city in crisis. We see a mayoral election next year that could make all the difference. And the voice of Citizens Union, standing up for honesty, integrity, accountability, transparency, accessibility, and ethics in government is needed now more than ever. But this year is a different year. It's an unprecedented year in this organization's history, because this year we feel compelled for the first time in our 120-plus year history to make an endorsement in the presidential race. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most consequential election of our lifetimes. We felt compelled to speak out when President Trump said there were good folks on both sides in the face of the Charlottesville horror. We felt compelled to speak out when the Trump administration's immigration policies were literally stripping babies from their mothers' arms at the border. We felt compelled to speak out when President Trump called the whistleblowers who had the courage to expose the Ukraine scandal traitors and called the impeachment process a hoax. And we felt compelled to speak out in the face of the Trump administration's mishandling of the twin crises of coronavirus and racial injustice. And we've watched in horror as our president has challenged the election process, even before the votes have been counted, and saying that he will not abide by the results. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a critical time in our nation's history. And it's for that reason that for the first time in our 120-plus year history, we are endorsing presidential candidate Joe Biden. Joe Biden stands for honesty, transparency, accountability, accessibility, integrity, and ethics in government. All of the things that this organization stands for. And while we can disagree about certain policy positions, this much is clear. Joe Biden is an honest man. Joe Biden is a fair man. Joe Biden is someone who will restore dignity to the Oval Office and respect the rule of law. So for all of those reasons, we today endorse Joe Biden, hope that our nation will once again heal and come together and be able to have respect for the Oval Office. We have a wonderful program tonight, some incredible honorees. So I'm once again so pleased to welcome you and to thank you on behalf of our board and our incredible staff for your support at this critically important time. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. That is big precedent-setting news from Citizens Union. But as Randy said, this is a time like no other. And I think our commitment to good government can be seen not only on a local level at times like this, although I should say I'm a member of the foundation, not the organization. That said, now it's the time to learn about our first truly great Gotham Great honoree of the evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Robbie Kaplan, one of Citizens Union's Gotham greats.
I first met Robbie over 20 years ago in local politics. She understood the power of law to make a difference in people's lives.
I met the illustrious Robbie Kaplan one afternoon in the Empire State Building. The thing that struck me immediately was her warmth.
You know, I had heard about Robbie before I met her. Her reputation precedes her. You can really get a sense for who this person is by looking at what she decides she's going to try to tackle.
She played a central role in not just one, but two major social justice movements in this country. The first, of course, being marriage equality, and the second being Me Too and the Time's Up movement. It's extraordinary.
Robbie helps the people of New York because Robbie helps the women in America.
One of the things that makes her the most unique and compelling individuals I know is that she's fearless.
She's a stone cold genius.
You'll find there's a common element there. It isn't about her client. It isn't about the individual. She takes on causes that represent vaster systemic issues.
She's someone who is a non-stop worker, but at the same time, she has this amazing family.
It's Robbie's family that gives her the fuel to take on these enormous challenges.
And I think actually makes her a better advocate for her clients.
She will worry as much about your health and what you're eating and if you're eating enough as she will about certain aspects of your case.
Robbie, warrior, genius, mother, wife, iconoclast. I'm here to congratulate you because, honey, it is an honor to carry your shield in your fight for justice.
I feel really lucky to have worked with Robbie, and now I feel just as lucky to consider her a friend.
Congratulations, Robbie, on being named one of Citizens Union's Gotham greats, along with Rachel and Jacob. You're the best family that my husband and I could ever imagine.
Hi, Robbie. I just wanted to add my congratulations and Jacob's congratulations to you for getting this amazing award from the Citizens Union. I know how important it is, especially for an organization that, like you, really advocates for everyone. And we're proud of you, proud of the Citizens Union, and always, always proud of New York City.
We congratulate Robbie Kaplan, a Gotham great.
It's my honor to introduce a true superstar in the New York bar, Roberta Robbie Kaplan. She left the comfortable life of a major firm to form her own firm with friends and colleagues, and is just killing it. Her track record on social justice and racial justice issues is one for such a young lawyer that would be an all-star lineup for someone at the end of their careers. Robbie is in the middle of a fantastic run. She argued before the Supreme Court to establish the right to same-sex marriage. Now she's taking on white supremacists and neo-Nazis for what they did in Charlottesville. She is an example to all of us of what it means to be a lawyer dedicated to serving, dedicated to the community. So it is my great honor to present to her our Gotham Greats Award.
Thank you so much, Randy, and thank you so much for calling me not a very old lawyer, although I feel like I'm a very old lawyer. I want to thank the Citizens Union for this remarkable honor. I'm so honored to be in the company of other honorees, including great women lawyers like Michelle Hirschman, Mary Jo White, Sheila Birnbaum, who are women who are have been mentors to me, but I'm proud to be able to call friends. Now, more than ever, we need organizations like the Citizens Union to do the very, very important work of holding our government accountable to its citizens and fighting for transparency, honesty, and the highest ethical standards. I don't need to tell you, watching this today, that every single day we are barraged with photographs seeing huge crowds of people in this country waiting 8 hours or more just to exercise the fundamental right to vote. If it wasn't already clear how important Citizens Union is to this country and its future, we know that now today more than ever. I am also very proud to work with my law firm, assisting in efforts to hold the government accountable, to stand up for ethics and integrity, and to hold the highest officials in our country accountable, including even the President of the United States. Some of you may know of my really unique and amazing client, E. Jean Carroll, who had the courage to sue the President of the United States for defamation when he claimed that not only hadn't he not sexually assaulted her, but that he hadn't done it because she's not my type. In that case, the Department of Justice has taken the extraordinary move of defending the case in the capacity of the government rather than letting Donald Trump defend it in his own personal capacity. And as we explained in our brief, there is not a single person in the United States, including even the president, whose job description includes slandering women he sexually assaulted. So I believe, and I'm sure everyone watching today believes, that we stand at a moment of our nation's history where the fundamental structures of our democracy are under threat like never before. And it is so important that each one of us stand up for dignity, for the Constitution, for democracy, and that and one way to stand up is to support organizations like Citizens Union, who work every single day to uphold those ideals and to fight for them in our democracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robbie. What a true Gotham great. What a hero in so many struggles for justice and equality, and someone we should all be proud to call a fellow New Yorker. E. Jean Carroll's Stone Cold Genius should trend. And I think it says so much about CU and the best of our state that we have honored Robbie Kaplan so appropriate as a true Gotham great. I want to turn next to our next two honorees, who are an iconic New York power couple. The Edelmans are so many things. They're so vibrant in terms of their commitment to our city and the lifeblood of our city and the buzz of our city. And so I think you're going to get to enjoy knowing even more about them.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Claudia Romo Edelman, one of Citizens Union's Gotham greats.
When I met Claudia, there were two things that immediately caught my attention. First of all, her beautiful, bright smile and how warm she is. I just realized there was this connection to caring for the same community that we come from and represent. And it was like I found a sister that I never had.
I've met Claudia over a year ago. I actually flew across the world to go and meet her. Her drive to be able to have the Hispanic community unite as one is by far one of my highest admirations for Claudia Romo Edelman.
It is evident that Claudia has created one of the most powerful movements to unify and elevate the power of Hispanics in the U.S.
She has developed her career as a true philanthropist, helping people in need. And when COVID struck, it was not by mistake that she was put in the right place at the right time. Claudia knew she had to go beyond the reach to help the people in need during this pandemic.
I mean, she will not take no for an answer. What are we gonna do? Who do we need to call? How does this become a reality? She is able to take dark or sad conversation into a joyful one. She can see the glass half full. And I think that's what it takes to thrive and lead and inspire.
She has really shown what great leadership is, and it's really empowering your people.
Congratulations for being one of Citizen Union's Gotham greats. I couldn't think of anybody better than you to get that title.
We congratulate Claudia Romo Edelman, a Gotham great. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Richard Edelman, one of Citizens Union's Gotham greats.
Richard is my best friend. I met Richard about 30 years ago. Richard is driven by a sense of responsibility, and not just to his immediate friends and family, but responsibility to society. He's just so sincere and incredibly honest and genuine.
With Richard, you know, the things I suppose I admire the most are like his true compassion and caring for you as a friend or you as a business partner. That really comes through.
Richard's a guy who wakes up every morning and says, how can I make the world a better place? Richard is one of the most genuine kind of this is who I am people that I know in the world. He has no pretensions. It's part of what I love about him.
I think his caring and giving back to the community like New York City, and I know he does so many things beyond that even. I think that's been incredible.
Rich and I both lack maturity. But we had a basketball team called the Delusionals, and it was all guys like over 50 years old who were delusional about their basketball ability, and Richard was as delusional as they come.
Meeting Claudia has really been a bright spot for him because I think it's given him even longevity and enthusiasm. She's been just a great influence on him.
I'm a pretty short person. So the thing that strikes me most about Richard and Claudia is they're both tall. I don't hold that against them, but under my quota, they're one of my few tall couples.
Congratulations, Richard and Claudia. Mom and Dad would be so proud of you for carrying on their legacy, for leadership and advocacy, for a just society. We love you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dad, on this amazing recognition. Thank you for raising me in New York and making me a lifelong New Yorker, and for being an all-around awesome dad.
we congratulate Richard Edelman, a Gotham great.
As you have just seen in the video, we are presenting the Gotham Great Award to two New Yorkers who have done so much for the city. And I want to tell you that Claudia Roma Edelman is a friend, and I'm very pleased to award her this for the work that she does to give the Latinos a voice that they should have in New York City culture and politics.
Thank you so very much. I am delighted. I am honored to accept this award from such an organization like yours and such a role model for me like you. I accept this with the promise that I will use it to keep on raising the voice of Latinos. Latinos, this incredible group, this community, 60 million people, 18% of the population, young, lovers, American dream lovers that believe in this country and that have been risking their lives, frontliners, 19 million during COVID, disproportionately affected by this pandemic, but also disproportionately ready and disproportionately equipped to come back and make New York big and hardworking again. So I accept this award to bring attention to this community that has been invisible for too long, that needs to be seen, that needs to be heard, that needs to be valued, so that we can engage fully in our civic engagement, so that we can actually go and take the census and register to vote, so that we feel that we have a voice and that it matters. Because I truly believe that America is made of stars, and we Hispanics were one of them. So I thank you for this award.
And I am also thrilled to give this award to Richard Edelman, whom I've known since he was very, very young, and want to thank him for all he's done, not only for New York City, but for the state and for the country. And it is with my great pleasure to give you this, Richard.
Thank you so much, Betsy. You're my lifetime friend. So we've been studying trust for the last 20 years, and what's evident is that trust in state and local government is now separated from the federal government, and that it's a vital part of the equation. And as we look forward to the next phase, we see that with vaccination and problems of remediation of COVID, the urgency of what Citizens Union does every day to prove that, in fact, state and local government needs to be trusted. That's the job that Betsy and her team do, and it's vital. I also accept this award on behalf of my 900 colleagues in the New York area who've worked on the opening of the 9/11 Museum, also the remediation and recovery of the downtown area in the wake of 9/11. And thank you for everything, team. So Betsy, again, from my heart, I appreciate it.
Congratulations and thank you to the Edelmans for all they do for our city and our state and for helping make us more united than divided. Now, a little housekeeping just before we're going to have a fireside chat with Congressman Kim Jeffries. I know this is something a lot of folks are excited about. I'm looking forward to it. You might want to just go to the upper right-hand corner of your screen and make sure you're in the speaker view rather than the gallery mode, because it'll be easier to listen to what the congressman says. Kim Jeffries has been congressman for the 8th District for 7 years. He's been a standout star in Congress, one of the real leaders of not only the the New York delegation, but really the Democratic side of the aisle. There's a lot to talk about Washington, state of the race, and how all this impacts New York. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Congressman Kim Jeffries. How are you, sir?
Good. Great to see you, John. Great to be with you and this tremendous organization, and certainly thankful for the leadership that Betsy Gottbaum has provided, and want to congratulate the Gotham greats, including Robbie Kaplan, who I once practiced law with at the great Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison.
Is that right? Wow, that's a pretty good alumni association y'all got there. Listen, Congressman, I want to just cut to the chase. I know all folks would love to get an update about the state of the COVID relief bill and that fight between the House and the Senate, the President. Where does it look like right now, as far as you know, and tell us its impact for New York as far as.
Well, negotiations are ongoing, and the Speaker, who's doing an extraordinary job, in my view, is continuing to talk to Secretary Mnuchin about finding the common ground necessary to meet the moment. We were able to do it earlier in the year with 4 different relief packages, and then House Democrats acted decisively with the HEROES Act in the middle of May, a $3.4 trillion intervention. We couldn't find common ground because there didn't seem to be any interest on the other side of the Capitol or within the administration to move forward. So we acted again and passed the HEROES Act 2.0 a few weeks ago, bringing our number down to 2.2 trillion, getting us closer to where the administration is comfortable with at 1.8. Now we're working through the language because language is important. And our view is that this intervention has to do three things. It has to crush the virus because the pandemic's not over for any of us until it's over for all of us. We need to provide direct relief to Americans who are struggling with housing or with food insecurity, and certainly with unemployment. And we need to begin the process of reviving our economy so we can get back to business in the new normal. And we're as close, I think, as we've been, based on a conversation that I had with the speaker earlier today. But there's still ongoing negotiations, and hopefully this can get closed down in the next few days.
So two things then. You believe this will pass before the election. Is that right? Am I hearing you correctly?
So certainly our objective is in the House is to reach a two-way agreement with the administration in the next few days. Now, at that point, I think it's going to be on Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans to determine whether it's appropriate to provide relief to the American people in the midst of all the pain and suffering and death that they've been experiencing. I believe the answer is yes. Seems to me that they should conclude that it's yes, but there's some uncertainty. And New York City and New York State need the relief in the same way that people all across the country do. It's not a blue state issue or a red state issue, it's an American issue.
No, and certainly no one expects you to speak for Mitch McConnell. What are there some specific provisions that you think are absolutely essential for New York? Like, for example, the Restaurant Act. We've got 17,000 small restaurants in New York City, independently owned, massive employer, really living on the knife's edge. What's the status of that kind of provision? How are you fighting for it?
Yeah, so, every industry has been adversely affected to some degree or the other, but certain industries have been impacted adversely in an extraordinary fashion. And certainly the restaurant industry falls into that category, both the small business owners and operators, the great American entrepreneurs, and the people who work within the restaurant industry, many of whom come from communities such as those that I represent. And so I think part of what we are working toward negotiating is an intervention sensitive to the specific way in which the restaurant industry has been impacted, but also to continue to try to be there for small businesses, for family-owned businesses, mom and pop shops. More than 100,000 have already permanently closed. Many of those are in New York City. And we've got to figure out a way to stand up for those that are holding on and revive those that have been forced to shut down.
No question about it. You are really part of House leadership. You were part of the impeachment process against President Trump, which was only this year, although it feels like a million years ago because, hey, 2020.
Did that happen this year, John?
That's my understanding. I seem to recall that was on the calendar. But look, in all seriousness, when you're playing a leading role in the Democratic caucus, what conversations have you had about what your party will do if Donald Trump tries to, intervene or deny the election results, whether or not it goes to the House for a vote? But that kind of election can chaos. What can you tell us about attempts to contain that chaos to ensure a peaceful and orderly transfer of power?
Well, I think the peaceful transition of power is so connected to the DNA of this country. George Washington didn't have to stand down after 2 terms in office, but made the intentional decision to stand down because he knew that what was created during the birth of the Republic wasn't a monarchy, it was a democracy, and it was a nation of rules and not men. And in that farewell address to the nation, George Washington said that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all, not everyone but the president, all. And, it's our expectation that this administration, if the American people decide not to renew their 4-year employment contract, will make that decision, and that Republicans will stand up and facilitate that peaceful transition in the same way that Democrats did in 2000, even in the face of a bitterly contested election when Al Gore lost to George W. Bush. And it's my expectation that the good people in America, and they're good Democrats and they're good Republicans, will rise up to say enough and usher that peaceful transition.
What if it goes to the House? And I appreciate the shout out for the farewell address, believe me, but what if it goes to the House? What is the have you all gamed that out, first of all? And what is the mechanism by which that would occur?
Yeah, so the 12th Amendment of the United States Constitution, as you know, John, is a highly accomplished barrister, says that if no candidate receives a majority of the electoral college vote, which requires 270, and this could happen in one of two ways, that there's a 269 to 269 tie, which is mathematically possible, or that the president decides to enlist allies who are governors to not certify electoral college slates that have legitimately put Joe Biden over the top. And if there's some controversy that gets manufactured in that regard and drops Joe Biden under the 270 number, perhaps affirmed by a favorable Supreme Court, then that could cast the election to the House. And the decision is then made in a contingent election by delegation, not by majority vote, as you know. And the current lineup is that there are 26 Republican-controlled delegations, 22 Democratic-controlled delegations, and 2 ties. And so—
How does the tie vote?
So the tie, our understanding of the manner in which the 12th Amendment would likely be interpreted is that a majority of the states is required, which means we believe 26 is the number. The ties don't vote unless, you know, someone from a Pennsylvania delegation or someone from the Michigan delegation decides to break with their party, because
this would be the new Congress, though, right?
Ties. Yes, and this is the new Congress convening on January 6th. So needless to say, in addition to the fight for the control of the House of Representatives, there is also a mathematical struggle underway right now to try to see how the delegation math can be changed.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's such an important time for our country. One of the first things this Congress did is pass H.R. 1, a democracy reform initiative. A lot of the issues on a national level are what CU has championed and really pioneered on a local level. I wonder what you think about pursuing a kind of democracy agenda after the election. What laws do you think are necessary for us to codify the lessons we have learned out of this era, where some democratic norms aren't necessarily respected by presidents?
Well, H.R. 1 was a central part of our For the People agenda in the last Congress, and that's our democracy reform bill. And it involves gerrymandering reform, redistricting reform. It involves lobbying reform, so make sure that we suppress the influence of special interests to elevate the people's interests. It involves campaign finance reform, and actually would create a matching fund system. We want to put low dollars into the system so that the voice of the American people can be heard, and bring some transparency to the flood of unregulated money that has poisoned the democratic process. And then H.R. 1 also importantly would include voting reform to create a greater opportunity for every single American to participate, and as a tandem to that, enact the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Act to repair the damage that was done to the Voting Rights Act of 1965 by the Supreme Court in 2013 in a 5-4 decision. And so those will be high priority democracy reform issues, higher on our agenda. And we believe Senate Democrats support that approach, and so does Joe Biden.
And we should say, in New York, we're going to have the first mayoral election with ranked choice voting, something Citizens United championed. We're going to have, after the next census in New York, independent redistricting reform, something that Citizens United championed, Citizens Union championed. Citizens United is a whole nother problem. Looking to New York City and state, though, what things beyond the COVID relief bill, what do you think needs to be done as a matter of policy to help New York City emerge from what is likely to be a very tough period? I think the long tail of COVID is going to impact New York City disproportionately. We're already seeing it and feeling it in some respects. What do you think, whether as a member of Congress or for folks running for mayor, needs to be dealt with policy-wise? What would you prioritize?
Well, I think, the affordable housing crisis was with us in advance of the pandemic, and is probably going to be exacerbated post the pandemic. The demand for affordable housing greatly exceeds the supply. And we've got to bring that into balance in order to maintain the vibrancy of all of our neighborhoods, traditionally middle-class neighborhoods and working-class neighborhoods that have increasingly become out of reach. I think that's going to be significant. And then making sure that we bring back as many good-paying jobs as possible and look for additional opportunities for new industries to be born and to flourish. And the thing that I'd say, John, is don't count out New York City.
Oh, never.
And because, people have done it before. They did it during the 70s fiscal crisis. They did it, during the crack cocaine epidemic, during the era of 2,000 plus homicides. They did it in 9/11. They did it when Superstorm Sandy struck. They did it during the Great Recession. And every time we've been knocked down to the ground, as you know, we pick ourselves up, we keep moving forward because we are a resilient city. And I believe that when we all pull together, we'll pull ourselves out of this and be better than ever before.
Never count out New York, and I think we'll innovate our way out of this one as well. Before you go, we got a big debate tonight. I want to give you a choose your own adventure. Looking into the future for Congressman Kim Jeffries. 2 possible futures. You have to pick one. Speaker of the House, Mayor of the City of New York. Which?
Well,
I'm not asking you to commit. I'm just saying, if you had to pick one for your possible future, which would you pick?
Well, that's a tough question, and so I'm going to have to say.
Oh, come on!
I'm going to have to say there's only one speaker at a time, and we've got an extraordinary one right now.
Sure.
And my mother does not want me to run for mayor. And so I don't know that I got any options other than continuing to do the best job that I can as the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus.
I'm hearing speaker in there somewhere. All right, Congressman Kim Jeffries, thank you so much for everything you do, for fighting the good fight on Capitol Hill, and for advancing so many of Citizens Union's agenda on a national level. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Citizens Union, for your extraordinary work.
All right, we got a big debate coming up in just a few hours. Congressman Jeffries just gave us some fascinating insights in the state of play in Washington. I want to thank you all for joining us. I want to thank you all for supporting Citizens Union. It's really never been more important than ever before. Before we go, though, I want to bring back Betsy Gottbaum, our executive director, to take us home as well. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you who have helped us generously this difficult time, and please keep on helping us because we have a lot of very, very important work to do. And thank you for attending this evening. Good night.